Hello and good morning. I I'm having a lot of emotional instability today as well as yesterday. Breakups are really fucking hard, and that is an understatement. And I know that I made a lot of mistakes in that relationship. But one of the biggest problems that I'm facing with it is that I can't remember the mistakes that I made. And I know that I made them, but there's like a wall. When I try to like go past it, I get all like dissociated and things get blurry, and I feel like a jerk because of it. And I wonder if like just the degree to which I can't remember anything, because it is severe. It is really severe. Makes me a bad partner, just like inherently. I feel that like at least if I'm dating another system, I worry about the degree of my amnesia like inadvertently causing me to push boundaries. And it's not that I'm trying to push boundaries on purpose, it's that I'm not aware of the boundaries. And I guess that I'm not aware, and I guess I don't ask and I don't think to, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's like you don't know what you don't know. Um, I feel so conflicted because one of the things I loved the most about being in a relationship with my ex was that they were also a system and they understood system things. But I also feel that me being a system and them being a system is part of why we weren't super compatible, like in the same vein. And those two things are true at the same time, and that's hard for a brain like mine to understand. Like, because of the DID and like the super compartmentalization aspect, and then also I am autistic, so I'm sure a bit of it is like related to that. Um, I said some things to them which I don't think that they were meant to be petty on my part, but maybe they could be misconstrued that way or seen as like objectively petty. I don't know. I don't really understand relationships or what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like I'm in this dissociated haze all of the time. And that's like part of why I feel like how how do we have a relationship like that when we barely remember anything? Cuz like we switch so often. So often. And like the amnesia is really severe, and I just feel like it's really disabling. I miss so much of my life. I miss social cues because of it. Like, that's another thing. Like, someone else in my system might be fronting and talking to someone, and I will only have like a vague understanding of what's happening out front. Like, I might heard like the last sentence that the person they're talking to said, but I don't have any other context. So I pop in and I share, but because I don't have the context, I look rude, like, because I didn't get the full story. And I do that all of the time, and people have reactions like, why did you say that? Like, that's weird, like, that doesn't match up. And then I'm like, well, I just got here, but I can't really explain that fact. Because, like, my body's been there the whole time, just like this one little subset of my mind hasn't. And I just feel really ashamed. And, like, it makes me feel stupid, like how much I forget. And um I tried to get like assessed a few years ago to figure out like definitively what was wrong with me and like my mental health. And I went to this guy who had previously diagnosed me with autism, ASD level 1, when I was 20 years old. And I went back to him because I thought, like, okay, well, he sort of got the autism, so maybe he can help me again. And the results were that he told me that he didn't say I didn't have autism, which that was confusing because I came to him specifically saying, like, I would really like you to, like, assess me again for autism just to, be sure, because I was worried that, like, I was misdiagnosed possibly. There's other parts of me that definitely have no qualms and no uncertainty about the fact that we're autistic. But then there's other parts that have some self-doubt regarding it, and so that is why we went. And in the end, the report was really confusing. It was difficult to understand, and he contradicted himself a few times. One contradiction I specifically remember is he said, I don't understand why she checked off so many criteria on, like, one of the, there was, like, a test he gave me. I don't remember exactly what it was for. It might have been, like, a very general mental health system test with a lot of different questions. And he said, I don't know why she checked off so many criteria for thought disorder. And then on the next page, he said, based off her responses to this, this, and this, it makes sense why she would select so many criteria for thought disorder. And I was like, what? Why didn't you just leave it at that? Like, what? It's like he was writing it as he went. He didn't come to, like, a fully cohesive, like, solid conclusion before he wrote the report. He was just, like, writing it as he went. And I don't know, maybe that's a valid way to write a report. That's not how I would do it personally, but also I'm not him and I'm not a guy that does neuropsychs, so maybe that's not relevant. But yeah, he didn't say I wasn't autistic, but he only said that I had general anxiety. And then he said, based off all the trauma she told me, a diagnosis of DID could make sense. But, like, that's not helpful. And the thing, too, is, like, that's not, just having a ton of trauma is not what makes DID. There's a lot of other criteria. Like, he didn't mention that he noticed switching. He didn't notice that he mentioned that he noticed amnesia. He didn't mention that he noticed like, different characteristics of voice and body language and all this other stuff, just based off of the extensive list of trauma that she, like, provided me with. And it was all very general. Like, he asked me, like, what trauma I went through, and I told him a few different things sprinkled across my childhood. Not everything, honestly, because not every single person was fronting. And then, and like, those traumas are, like, hidden within them specifically, so, like, I wouldn't have access to them. And then he said in the report she didn't mention one of the traumas she mentioned at 20. And, like, then later, because that in the report that was ringing through my ears for multiple years, that was a rhyme, I started, like, combing through my brain, and I realized that I was, like, asking my headmates, like, which trauma is he fucking talking about? And then I figured out what it was, and I realized, oh, the reason that I didn't mention it is DID. But yeah, so, like, I don't consider that, like, a formal diagnosis of DID, because it only said, like, based off the trauma she listed, a diagnosis of DID could be possible. So there's that. So I didn't really like the report because he never said she doesn't have autism. He never said she does have autism. He just said she has general anxiety and maybe DID. And there were some parts that really wanted more of, like, overall definitive answers about what we were struggling with. They wanted to know, like, do we still have autism? Is it definitively autism? Were we misdiagnosed with it? Like, what do you think? And they also wanted to know, like, is what we're dealing with definitively DID? Is there something else mental health wise that we're struggling with that, like, if we get a proper diagnosis, we can start the proper treatment and then start healing so that we feel better? And we felt that we didn't really get that with the report. And then we called him back because we found the report really confusing. And, like, I asked if he could, like, write it again in a way that was, like, easier to understand, and he asked me like which parts I didn't understand. And if I'm honest, I did not understand the entire report. And so I said, well, it was pretty much the whole thing, so could you possibly like rewrite it so that I can use it? And I also mentioned that like I didn't feel like he was really definitive on what was wrong with me, and if he could possibly be more definitive, because like I was frustrated because I wanted definitive answers and I didn't really get them, and because he didn't give me definitive answers and I used my insurance to have this neuropsych, I wasn't able to like have another one because I just used up like my insurance for it. And so I was kind of frustrated, and he kept saying like, let me throw the ball back in your park. Can you write me like a detailed Google Doc of like everything you didn't understand? And I'm just thinking to myself like, guy, I'm tired. Like, I feel like depressed, and like I like genuinely have problems with thought disorder as characterized by like that test that you had me do. I struggle to organize my thoughts, and I think it's dissociation. I'm not really sure. And like one thing about me too is I think it's a depression thing as well. My understanding and processing of things is very general. Like I'm not detail oriented at all, and I really struggle with details. And he asked me that to do that, it instantly like really overwhelmed me, and like I didn't feel capable of it, and I because of the problems that I'm like some of the reasons that I needed the neuropsych, I struggled with the reasons that I couldn't write him a detailed explanation on a Google Doc of exactly what he said and why it was confusing. And like it felt like a lot to call him because I have phone anxiety. It was a lot to call him, and it was a lot to like ask for anything that I needed because I didn't want to be a burden. And like but yeah, he was like, yeah, let me just throw the ball back in your park. And I kept saying, well, can I throw it back in yours? And then it just never went anywhere. So I said, okay, I understand. And I hung up. And ugh, I don't know. Oh, and yesterday I was like able to get a therapy appointment, but like I'm kind of worried because I sort of had to take whatever I could get, because like my insurance is like a Medicare HMO Value RX, and I struggle to find providers that take it, especially like someone that understands like trauma and dissociation. It's kind of difficult to find someone who takes my insurance and also understands trauma and dissociation, especially like when it comes to DID. But I also get worried because I had a DID specialist and they like dropped me because I was too complex and like bad, I think. Also probably erratic. I had like, I don't know if this is what it was or not, but this is the best way for me to describe it. I had an episode in like late September, and like I think through maybe October. No, sorry, wrong time frame. Sorry, I'm not good at time frames, and I probably shouldn't try to give one. Well, anyway, I'll just say that I had an episode this year where I believe the best way to describe it is it was like a psychotic break. And I believed a lot of things that weren't true and like really didn't make any sense. And I was very anxious, and I thought that people were trying to kill me. And I straight up just ran away from my home for an entire month because I thought people were trying to kill me. And it really affected my relationships. It's a big reason why my ex and I are breaking up, because of that episode I had. And I can't even remember very much of it, and I feel very guilty. And like, one thing too is like, I'm afraid that what if I have that again? Because like typically I'm someone who's very grounded in reality, and I've never experienced something that scary before. where like everything, I thought everyone was out to get me. I thought people were gonna kill me. And it was really scary. And like I shared a lot of stuff that I thought was real that wasn't real, apparently, with my ex that was really like traumatic for them to hear. And I realized like the effect of what I did was traumatic and I feel horrible. But I also can't really remember the things that I even said. And I thought they were true things, but now I'm... What's happening? Oof. But yeah, I'm afraid, like, because I'm not sure, well, I have a theory, because I'm not sure exactly how to prevent something like that happening again, where I completely lose touch with reality, and I run away from home, and I damage my relationships, and, like, I have a theory as to, like, what caused it. So, like, I do with DID, and I've been through, like, a lot of trauma in my childhood, as well as an adult. Because of the amnesia that I experienced, it's made me very vulnerable to being taken advantage of, and being mistreated by people. And even as an adult, I have kept getting into situations where people were not treating me well, like just big understatement. And I experienced like a lot of trauma the past few years, like sprinkled throughout it. And if I'm honest, hold on one sec, I have to find my tissue box because like I'm feeling gross and there's mucus all up in me. I don't really want to like specifically talk about the traumas because it's really upsetting. But like I went through some stuff, and I think that the accumulation of those different traumatic experiences over the past few years caused me to have a psychotic break. And the thing is, like, part of the reason like these traumas even occurred was because I was lonely and I really wanted connection and I desperately wanted to be seen and understood. I live alone, and at the time where these traumas occurred, I was single and I didn't have a partner. And I really want a partner, and I feel like I feel like I'm meant to be someone's. I'm meant to love someone. I'm meant to grow with someone. And like I know that I'm flawed, and I know but people are flawed, and I think that everyone is someone out there that's right for them. And I want to believe that there's someone out there for me. And like I forget a lot, and I wonder sometimes if that just makes me a bad partner. And like if I'm too inattentive, and it's not on purpose, but I'm very distracted, I get derailed very easily just because like I forget so much and people pop in and out. And also like I haven't, as far as I know, I haven't been like formally diagnosed with ADHD, but it has been suggested to me a few times by different therapists, and I do have a lot of ADHD symptoms as well. Like I struggle to direct my focus, and like I doom scroll until I can see a funny TikTok or like something funny so I can like get up. I benefit from like body doubling to do chores, and like I'm sure there's a lot more to ADHD. I'm also just scattered, and I get so hyper sometimes, and but anyway, not saying like definitively I have ADHD, but I have a lot of like symptoms, and it's been suggested to me before that I have ADHD, so by therapists. And But yeah, the therapist that we were able to get, she's like, she's virtual, and I'm okay with that if I'm honest, because there are parts in my system that really don't want to see somebody in person just yet for therapy, just because we've had so many experiences with therapists where we were too much, or it just didn't work out, or they didn't really understand us, and that was traumatizing for them, because a lot of them just, we haven't been seen or understood, and when we're not seen or understood, that is a huge trigger for us. um, yeah, I don't like, I don't like when people don't understand me, because it reminds me, like, of when my mom didn't, when I got yelled at for just, like, having autistic traits. That was, like, a big thing for me, was, like, when I was a kid, I was just, like, I was autistic, and I couldn't help it, but I got yelled at for it. I got called a monster, and lazy, and stupid, and told I don't try hard enough, and that I just throw tantrums and I cause problems and I'm dramatic. And especially, like, I had meltdowns because I was overwhelmed, and I'm just autistic, and I was also being abused, and it was just beyond my capacity to deal with, so I was melting down all the time, and it just made people more mad at me. It made my mom more mad at me. And like, I would try to explain to her that like, my meltdowns were involuntary, that I wasn't trying to be a brat, that I wasn't trying to be a burden, that I can't control it, and that it's actually scary for me. That it's a loss of control, and that my body hurts when it happens, that my skin hurts, that my everything hurts. And another thing too is I straight up hurt myself when I have them. I hit myself. I inadvertently pull the muscles in my calves. And I was just yelled at when I was getting injured, and I couldn't control it. And that's something that really traumatized me. Ooh. But yeah, the therapist in question, I don't really know, like, how much he understands about DID, but I did try to make it clear to the, like, receptionist when I called. So there was just, like, a profile on Psychology Today, and I called it, and apparently it was, like, a therapy group. I wasn't really, like, paying that much attention. I was being kind of general, because sometimes that's all I have the energy for. Like, I can't read a lot, I get overstimulated. So I just saw that they took my insurance and that they have therapists, and I sort of read the issues, and it said, like, they did trauma. So I sent an email, and then I got a text from the group, and it included, like, their phone number, and it said you can call for, like, quicker assistance or something similar. So I called the number. I'm like, hi, like, I just sent an email and I got this text, and I was just calling to see if I could set up an appointment. And the guy was like, oh yeah, like, he, like, asked, like, what my insurance was, and they took it, and then asked kind of, like, what I'm looking for and, like, what my issues were. And I said, well, I went through a lot of trauma in my childhood that seems to have resulted in, like, a lot of dissociation and time loss, and as a result of the trauma, like, the trauma's caused that, also anxiety and depression. And I really want help, like, figuring out what's going on so that I can start to feel better. Honestly, yeah, he suggested someone originally, and he was about to set up an appointment with her, and we were going to see her the first time virtually, and then all of the other appointments were going to be in person. But he tried to book it, and then I was like, oops, I'm sorry, it seems like someone else just snagged this appointment. And I was like, no, are you serious? Um, and oh, then he suggested a man that I could see in person, but I would just prefer, honestly, not to see a male therapist. I think that might be too triggering or destabilizing for me and also my system. Um, and then he found another therapist that we'll see strictly virtually, and he said that he thinks will be a good fit. I don't know, because like I didn't specifically mention DID in the email or even on the phone with him. I mostly just said that like I was experiencing like dissociation and time loss, because to me, like, that is pretty much the main problems that I feel I'm experiencing as a result of my DID. And I noticed that when I would write emails to therapists and I would say I have DID and like flat out say that, they would say like, oh, sorry, I don't really know much about it and I don't think I can help you. And like, I appreciate that like they're being honest, but also I need something. I need someone and I'm desperate. And I know that's not precise and that's not detail oriented and maybe it's messy, but I really struggle making decisions. And I'm not exactly I'm not exactly sure why. Like, I don't know. Is it a mix of dissociation, anxiety, depression, and do I have like learning disabilities? Because well, I know I have dyscalculia. Like, I was diagnosed with like a math learning disability. I just, and I'm also not. It was never super explained to me like how the math learning like the dyscalculia affects me. I haven't really like read into it. I feel like it's definitely probably more than just not being great at math, but and then it's also possible that I have other learning disabilities I'm not currently aware of because like they got missed or something. But I really, really struggle to process information and make decisions. And it could just be all the things that I already mentioned, like anxiety, depression, the dissociation. It could also just be like slow processing, I think, is like related to my autism. Also maybe dissociation too, honestly. I don't know. Dude, it feels like all I do is talk in circles. Because my body gets hijacked and then my train of thought is like, and then I try to circle back and I don't quite get it all. I'm going to try to go on a little walk even though I'm feeling horrible, and I'm probably going to go walk outside and then cry in public about my ex, and as that's something that I seem to be doing on my walks, and I don't like it, because like, one, that's embarrassing, but like two, another part of me is just like, we're humans, we have emotions. If someone is going to see someone on a walk openly crying and think like, oh, what a scary individual, I'm just like, fuck you. Fuck you. Like, as humans, it is normal to have pain. It's normal to cry. And like, maybe it's cathartic, and maybe like it is a little off-putting like to do in public. If I'm honest, I think more people should just openly, unashamedly cry in public. Because then maybe we'd all feel safer around each other. Maybe we'd all feel a little more emotionally safe. I don't know. Or maybe there's another camp that like needs to feel emotionally safe to cry. And there's parts in my system who are like that, but like also sometimes like if you gotta do it, just do it. Because sometimes it's just better to process it when it's there. than it is to like try to keep it in and then like it spills out later in a situation when you don't want it to. And like maybe that's a problem with my ex. Well, with the relationship with my ex, not my ex, but with me regarding my ex. Like maybe I didn't gradually let out my feelings enough and they just built up and made me a bitch and ineffective at communicating, and I don't know. I just feel so horrible that I did such a bad job in that relationship. And it makes me scared. Like, what if I can't do better? What if that is my best? And I don't want it to be my best. But that fucking scares me. Because what if I end up alone? I don't want to be alone. But I also don't want to be like, I don't know, just a piece of gum on the sidewalk partner. I don't want to be a garbage trash can partner. Someone that's just like, somebody, I don't know. I want to be someone that like, someone's proud to be with. And like, I'm proud to be that person. But I've never felt proud to be me. I've always just hated myself. And I don't know, like, how to change it, if I'm honest. I genuinely have no fucking clue. Like, my last, not last, but, like, one of my, oh, well, to me it was last. My last therapist, who I'm now being told, we saw someone else, apparently, that I didn't know about after. But that therapist, stop, guys, my train of thought. Sorry. Okay, well, now I've totally lost it, and oops. The story of my life, right? I'm gonna try to go on a walk, even though I really don't want to. But I'm gonna do it because it's important for our health. Get that you don't want to. Get that a lot of us don't want to. But we need to do this for our health. So I'm gonna go do that. Hee hee. I'm so uncomfortable.